So it would appear that I have some fans in the audience, which is nice to know. So first of all, just let me bring my slides up. I wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being invited to present here today. I'll try not to talk too quickly, and I'll give the person who's translating an opportunity to speak and follow me. But what I wanted to talk about today, and what I was asked specifically to talk about, was innovation around travel and the technology that is part of that. And if I can get my slides to work. Perfect. There's a great deal of innovation that spans from different directions. There's innovation in user experience, there's innovation in business models, there's innovation in technology. Travelport are a company that many of you may be aware of. We were originally a company called WorldSpan and Galileo and Apollo that merged together to become a single travel provider. We basically allow agents to price, shop, and book different travel experiences, primarily air, but also car and hotel. What I'm going to try and not do is turn this into a sales pitch. I want to try and share with you some of our observations around the technology that's occurring in the marketplace, although I will use some examples of our specific products in my latter slides. So some of the technology trends that we're seeing in the industry right now are around things like personalization, improved user experience, and things like cloud computing. The first presenter talked about big data. These are all trends that we're seeing increasingly. Can you please raise your hand if you have a smartphone in the audience? Maybe I should have asked the question, who doesn't have a smartphone in the audience? The interesting thing for us all to think about here is that in 5.5 short years, which is roughly the time when Apple launched their first phone, which you could arguably say was the first truly smartphone, we have all started to adopt this technology in droves. And technology continues to drive large amounts of innovation, although it is not the only way to innovate. And for me personally, innovation is about doing things differently and then having other people follow you or imitate you. And again, the second speaker showed many examples where they maybe did some innovation specifically around advertising and the flu pandemic fear that we heard. Clearly, there are many trends in the technology space, and a lot of what's driving this is Moore's Law. You may be familiar with Moore's Law. It's the law that every 18 months, the processors in our electronic devices effectively double in computing power. That's why now we can have smartphones that do voice recognition using that and the fact that cloud computing at the back end is powering these systems. So wearable technology is a big thing, and we saw a real live Google Glass, and I need to grab this guy later because it's the first time I've physically seen one myself. Biometrics are going to be huge as well. Being able to transact with your smartphone is going to be massive. And I actually bought my coffee from Starbucks on campus here using the Starbucks app, for example, which is one of the most successful mobile purchasing apps today that exists in the market. But that is just the beginning, and we will see mobile transactions being driven increasingly through that. And we heard again from the second speaker how they're starting to do that in the hotel supply chains. And of course, things like near-field communication chips will allow us to unlock our hotel rooms ultimately as well with our smartphones, provided providers allow these technology innovations to happen. Technology really then is driving a lot of changes, and not just at the technology level in terms of the devices, but also in terms of the way that we want to search and book travel. And at Travelport, we drive a lot of searches. Around 1.2 billion searches a day transact through our systems, allowing the travel supply chain to find information about pricing options and combine them together to enable, ultimately, experiences to be delivered to customers. And that technology trend has been one that's been in the travel industry for a very long time. The GDSs, as Travelport used to be called, although these days we like to define ourselves as a commerce platform, is really born out of the airline systems that originally were powering all of this and connecting these things together. But that technology now has evolved, and we continue to see mobile and other consumer-led technologies that are driving a lot of change in our industry. And we all need to look at these as opportunities rather than threats to the way we work and the way we engage with customers. I love this picture. But the interesting thing for me about this divide between digital natives and digital immigrants is that that is no longer a real division. Just by the fact that many of you are now smartphone users, there is no longer this concept of a digital native being somebody in their 20s and somebody in their 40s or 50s being a digital immigrant. Because actually the technology now has become so easy and so powerful to use that in today's society we are all increasingly digital natives. And that makes for an exciting opportunity for all of us to reach into the technology space to drive new forms of innovation. This year there are actually more mobile subscribers than there are people. And again, to validate that, I'll ask another question to make sure you're awake. How many people in the room have more than one phone today? Yeah, a few of you. So either for business and personal use, we tend to combine these together. And 30% of travelers are now starting to book different elements of travel through the mobile device. Many of those being hotels that are booked within 1 mile of the residence in large cities in particular. And so there is a trend right now around what we've called at Travelport SO-LO-MO, social, location, and mobile. And it's the amalgamation of these three things together that are driving some of the things like the first speaker spoke about in relation to Airbnb. It's not any one of these technologies on their own, but the conglomeration of them that allows for these kind of activities to be delivered. And truly new innovation is starting to flow from these ideas. In your region in particular, you're particularly avid users of social media. In fact, you spend more than 10 hours per month on social media in this area, which is more than twice the global average. And in particular, you have 600 million mobile phone users in the LATAM area and around 256 million traditional internet users. Again, speaks volumes to how mobile has now overtaken the traditional PC in terms of our preferred device for accessing the internet. In addition to that, we're also now seeing more volumes of internet traffic going to mobile apps than through traditional web pages. We're literally at a 50-50 tipping point right now. And some people are starting to talk about the death of the traditional web because of this mobile addiction that we seem to be living through right now. Cloud and internet technologies, therefore, are actually driving a whole group of new opportunities into the travel space. And in particular, how you can connect to those travelers and join these experiences up. And we believe at Travelport that personalization is going to be one of the very significant elements of this. We're also seeing an increased combination of what we've coined the phrase bleisure. Business and leisure travel together. Somebody will take a business trip and add on an extra day to the beginning or the end of the trip. And we're starting to see that now through our systems that around 47% of our customers are starting to merge these two things together. So again, interesting trends that are being driven out of people's changing behavior. And I mentioned already the fact that mobile apps now are increasingly being more pervasive than traditional web pages for internet traffic, but we're seeing mobile just explode in many different industries. And the interesting thing here is to do mobile well, You have to be able to have the right APIs and technology, APIs being application programming interfaces, to be able to deliver small messages that are nimble and are not going to use all of your data up on your data plan. Back to the first speaker's comments. And again, this is going to drive a new kind of search experience. Today, and I'll give you a real-world example, at Travelport we have a development office in Denver, and I travel to Denver probably 4 times a year. And I've been with Travelport around 5 years now. If you look through my history, you can see that I generally travel on a Saturday or a Sunday. I generally travel back on a Friday on the last flight. I generally travel with British Airways when I take that flight because it's one of the few providers that are direct. And I also stay pretty much in the same hotel, which is right next door to my office in Denver. Yet, whenever my travel agent makes that booking today, they actually go and do the search and bring back all the data, much of which they don't need to know. So personalized search is something that we think is going to be very important at Travelport. And although some of the GDSs have resisted some of the IATA pieces, at Travelport we've been actually embracing some of the IATA elements in relation to rich content and branding to enable the airlines to better differentiate their products, to allow pictures of the content to appear. And I'll talk some more about that as we go forwards. I've spoken about big data, so I'll move through that as well. We also see that there is a need for a consistent experience that's delivered through all channels. So today, many of the agencies that we work with are trying to reinvent themselves. Rather than being traditional travel agencies, they're trying to become what many of them are describing as digital retailers. And the classic or ultimate digital retailer today, for me, is probably Apple. I don't know how many people have had the fortune to go into an Apple store anywhere globally, but you will find that they know you as a single individual. They will email you a single receipt through your purchase, and in actual fact will allow you to buy goods just through scanning them on your own smart device. That is what, if you like, the ultimate in digital retailing is to aspire to. And that, again, is a form of innovation. But in order for that to happen in the travel supply chain, we need to drive connectivity into our systems, and we need those systems to be much more collaborative and actually share the information between them. I'm going to push through some of these because I'm conscious of time. Another thing that's really important as well is that the traditional travel booking experience today is a cryptic experience. Travel agents today tend to book travel through the GDS systems through a cryptic interface, the sort of DOS-type screens that you may be familiar with if you've ever spent time in a travel agency. However, Generation Y will make up 75% of the population by 2025. That's as short as 11 years away. And let me tell you, Generation Y are digital natives, and cryptic is not their preferred experience. So at Travelport, we're investing in new experiences for agents that blend cryptic and traditional, cryptic and GUI interfaces to deliver the best of both. And that's one of the things that our airline partners are loving about the rich content and branding that we're able to supply for them. So I mentioned personalization being a big initiative for us and one that we see as a really important element of connecting up the travel supply chain. But personalization is about data. And at Travelport, we are a kind of big data company before big data was something that you talked about in the industry. We transact around 250 million PNRs, passenger name records, per year. And that's a lot of different travelers flowing through our systems. But that means that we have a lot of data to be able to analyze the patterns. And big data is really about looking at data and using it to predict behavior. Either behavior that hasn't happened yet, using predictive analytics, or behavior that has happened already, but actually using it to better market and sell your products and solutions to your customers. And we see this being able to deliver a better traveler profile, a way to be able to deliver better behavior and preferences for travelers that stay with them throughout the journey. I attended the Focusrite event 2 years ago, where the then head of Amex Travel stood on stage and said that one of the biggest challenges for the travel industry today was delivering joined-up experiences across the travel supply chain. And we recognize that at Travelport as a big challenge, and one that we personally today are increasingly trying to understand how we address that. So, a few slides on Travelport's technology. We have content, air, car, hotel, merchandising content, which we provide through our systems to not only our agencies through points of sale, but also through corporate booking tools, through mobile devices, through third parties, and through third-party apps that are built through those solutions. The big thing we've been focused on in the last 18 months has been around rich content and branding, and allowing the airlines to be able to present their product their way, which means that you can actually see what the seat looks like and get a rich content description of the airline. This is really changing the dialogue with our airline customers away from Travelport being seen as a GDS tax to being seen more of a marketing partner. And we're actually winning with airlines right now some really exciting landmark agreements. Just recently, we signed up Ryanair to a 6-month exclusive deal for content, which we are displaying side by side with traditional carrier and low-cost carrier. We already had EasyJet content in an agreement that we had announced previously in last year. So these are things that traditionally GDSs would never have done. But now Travelport are truly changing the game and are embracing our airline customers with a marketing platform rather than a GDS tax. What we're doing, therefore, is revolutionizing the points of sale, but also the different ways that this content can be consumed. And to give you an example of what that screen would look like for an agent, this is one of the new rich content screens that will be available in Travelport's points of sale in approximately 10 weeks' time. So this really is the thing that's getting the airlines very excited. This screen, by the way, gets brought up through a cryptic command. So again, we're blending GUI and cryptic to meet the needs of our different customer groups and emerging market types. We're also delivering all this content through a new API, which enables these new kinds of experience through mobile and through the traditional kinds of experience that I talked about in terms of agent points of sale. And we're working with third-party travel partners to make this technology easier than ever to consume and to build into the kinds of personalized travel experiences that both of my former speakers have mentioned. We've also been doing some things around inspirational search, and anybody that's seen the inspirational search product on Emirates should actually maybe know that Travelport are the people that are powering that solution. And our user experience team, which we call Juice Labs, actually worked closely with Emirates to actually build out that capability. Again, something traditionally you wouldn't have thought of a GDS maybe doing. I mentioned some of these stats earlier, but you know, we daily price over 1.2 billion travel itineraries. We have over 50 million bookings live in our systems at any one time. And we are, you know, combining millions of traveler profiles into the systems that we operate. But what we're really working on right now is how do we make these more consumable through what we call a B2B2C experience, a business to consumer experience. This is about enabling travel agents to be able to have itineraries and profile data that is branded as the travel agent, but is actually engaging directly with the traveler. So it's reaching into the traveler and helping you to have great experiences. This isn't an OTA experience, this is leveraging your richness as a travel agent and the high amount of value you deliver around the experience that you do with the selling experience over the phone and the customer service you deliver, but it's about giving some of those elements a modern twist. And so one thing that we can say is that the combination of technology and the movement forwards that we're seeing in the industry around the things I talked about, like Moore's Law, mobile, wearable technologies, will continue to see technologies emerge. We at Travelport, as a facilitator of travel commerce and connecting the travel supply chain, see ourselves as a key partner with you, the travel suppliers, and the end travelers, but through you and branded as you, as somebody that can bring these technologies to add innovative solutions in your market. And again, our Juice Labs team have been driving a lot of that. One thing that we would see in the 2018, 2017 timeframe, if I had a crystal ball, we think we will see profiles that are more accurate with search based on profile and demographics. The example I gave earlier, why give me all those shopping results if you know what I'm going to shop when I go to a certain location? We think that the profile will be more shared. Think Facebook, but maybe for travel, and how that needs to work and be collaborative. And yes, that needs to meet the Freedom of Information and Data Protection Act challenges for different markets and geographies, but we think the technology is now good enough to enable and rise to that challenge. We think that we will see interesting areas around things like speech and around gesture being commonplace in more of the things that we engage with. And we should all in this room see these as great enablers that should excite us, not be fearful of the changes. We should be leveraging and seeing how we maximize the value. One thing we can all say is that none of us can predict the future, but one thing is for sure, that technology continues to emerge at an ever faster rate. And I think that we can all guarantee that the travel industry that has been linked with technology from the very beginning will continue to be at the forefront of that. And we hope that Travelport can be a partner with you in those things. Thank you for your time today.